majoring in mass communication with a concentration in public relations. Under the mentorship of Dr. Kevin Hagopian, who is here with me today, I had the opportunity this summer to conduct a content analysis of African American female representation and a selection of current university viewbooks. So I'll begin with an example that will certainly speak for itself as to why I believe my research is important. So here on the screen, on the right is the before picture, and on the left is the after picture. So I'll give you a little time, kind of look at it, see what you think, see if anything's wrong. Well, in the summer of 2000, in an attempt to portray diversity amongst its student body, the University of Wisconsin made the decision to Photoshop an African American face amongst a group of celebrating white faces. So the fact that the University of Wisconsin thought that this was okay and actually came to consensus and agreed to publish this is certainly a problem. And surprisingly, this happened in the summer of 2000, and there has still been little research conducted on the explicit and implicit messages contained in the glossy pages of college and university viewbooks. Therefore, conducting more studies like mine will certainly help to prevent future mistakes like the University of Wisconsin's from happening again in the future. So the purpose of my study is to determine how the college student is depicted in collegiate recruitment media, such as viewbooks, and whether African American women can identify with this college student in a way that empowers them to believe that they can find a sense of social belonging at a majority white institution. So for this study, a content analysis was employed as a means of systematically identifying, classifying, and tabulating the symbols, images, and messages from the viewbooks. I then interpreted these messages in light of concerns about multicultural recruitment and community on large university campuses. So while I looked at the interplay of both text and images, for this project I will be referring directly to the images themselves. So let's get down to what is a viewbook. A viewbook is a promotional booklet with pictures that is published by a college or university and used especially for recruiting students. So I'm sure our junior and senior years in high school, we all remember getting those letters in the mail from college and universities that we probably never heard of, them just trying to convey to us why they believe they are the best choice for us to attend college there. So I conducted my content analysis on the 8 flagship public university viewbooks shown on the screen. And by region, 2 universities each were selected from the North, Pennsylvania State University and the University of Connecticut, the South, University of Florida and University of Texas at Austin, the West, the Midwest, University of Michigan and University of Missouri, and the West, University of California, Berkeley, and the University of Washington. So a sample of top well-known flagship public universities was selected because these schools, they all share an excitement to recruit. While these universities strive to attract and appeal to a wide, diverse demographic of students in their regions, they also attempt to attract some of the same demographic of students both nationally and internationally. So my thesis was that the representation of African Americans in viewbooks portrays the college experience as part of a racially integrated mainstream. However, the viewbooks lack a representation of homogeneous interaction amongst African Americans. So in conducting the content analysis, 455 viewbook images were analyzed, and there were 3 basic categories that emerged as each individual viewbook image was analyzed. I found that all of the images showcased a representation of place, community, or intellectual life. Additionally, there were some images that fell into 2 categories. Therefore, 3 hyphenate categories were constructed: place plus community, community plus intellectual life, and place plus intellectual life. So we see the essence of each of these images express college life in an iconic way, such as the University of Michigan's collegiate-looking law library used to signify intellectual life. So I actually have some examples from the viewbooks I analyzed to kind of give you an example of what I meant by each category. So going on into my findings, like as mentioned previously, I had 6 categories that I constructed, and as I analyzed each of the 455 viewbook images, I was able to code each one into one of the 6 categories. So we can see that community came on top with 144 of those 455 images being able to be coded there. And intellectual life came in second with 133 being able to be coded in that category. So I then broke it down to representation of African American males and females. And by analyzing the 455 Viewbook images, I was surprised to see that 144 of those images did include an African American representation. And whenever looking at each image, I found that 88 females were represented, while only 56 males were represented. So after I was able to get those numbers, I then went back and I coded my African American males and females into one of the 6 categories that I originally came up with. And again, community came in first. I have 64 females there and 43 males. So as I analyzed all of my 455 Viewbook images, there were some themes that emerged. And my first theme was that college as a primarily social sphere with an intellectual component, being that community came in first with 144 and intellectual life in second with 133. And my second theme, college is a social setting that enables students to develop intimate relationships amongst their peers and professors to achieve successful college careers. So again, the purpose of my study was to determine how the college student is depicted in these college and university viewbooks. So I was able to determine that the college student is depicted as an independent individual capable of thriving in social settings. And then looking at race and gender, I was able to conclude that taken as a whole, the viewbooks seek to create an image of African American life at universities as explicitly racially integrated and implicitly female-dominated, both socially and intellectually. So what I mean by explicitly racially integrated, so of the 455 Viewbook images, with those 144 that did include African American males and females, they were all shown as kind of like a diversity picture. So they were amongst other genders, other races and ethnicities, but there weren't really a lot of pictures that had African Americans interacting with other African Americans. And then when I say implicitly female-dominated, I'm pretty sure that the Viewbooks weren't intentionally trying to convey this, but what we saw with the representation of African American males and females, the females came in first with 88, while the men only had 56. So that's going to show that the females are dominating both socially and intellectually with this African American life at universities. So I believe the implications of this research can be far-reaching in terms of helping college and university PR professionals and marketing professionals increase diversity within their institutions. By understanding the implicit and explicit messages communicated by the images in Viewbooks will allow colleges and universities to know how they can better tailor their Viewbooks to appeal to prospective students of all genders, races, and ethnicities. So within my 8 weeks here at Penn State, I became definitely immersed within my research and very excited about it. And I definitely plan to use this study as a foundation and take it back with me to LSU and conduct my honors thesis. So some more things that I would like to look at is definitely increase my sample size. So being with the 8-week limitation I had, I was only able to look at 8 college and university Viewbooks. So definitely want to increase that sample and get a more diverse sample. And then also looking at the rhetorical analysis of the Viewbooks, of the verbiage in the Viewbooks. So I primarily focus on the images here, so I definitely want to look at the text as well and see how those two interplay. And then also the print versus digital. So once I selected my 8 university Viewbooks to analyze, I actually contacted the universities via email and asked them to mail me a print copy of the Viewbook as well as provide me with a digital copy of the Viewbook. And I was kind of surprised at some of the responses I got. Some of the universities actually told me that they no longer mail promotional pieces such as Viewbooks anymore. So, as digital is becoming more of age, just trying to see how these universities are dealing with that print versus digital stage. So now I have a few thank yous to give away, definitely to Dean Selden and Dean Harden, who are both here, because without them, I would not be here. And also my faculty mentor, Dr. Kevin Agopian, who was with me and guided me throughout this 8-week process. And also the graduate student I worked with, Mr. Steve Bianane, thank you very much. And also to my SROP family, Dr. Stephanie Preston, and the SROP faculty, staff, and scholars. And last but not least, the Pennsylvania State University. So this concludes my presentation, and I will now take questions. Yes, Mr. Cawley.
Okay, so my question is, with these yearbooks featuring African Americans, did you ever look at the objective of these pictures? Is it to like promote African Americans in higher education? As in like the universities are excited to have more African Americans applying and been accepted, or is it just like a facade to show we care? Just for the media. I mean, you know the objective of them having these African Americans in their pictures.
Right, I see what you're saying. Definitely with diversity, wanting to increase diversity within these institutions, definitely at the forefront of many colleges and universities. So it's all about kind of those good intentions. They want to make sure there's the African American representation in there, as well as other ethnicities as well. Just as I said, they're trying to attract some of the same demographics in their regions, but they're also thinking about nationally and internationally. So as well as a specific objective, I'm pretty sure it's just, we want to make sure we have that representation in there. And definitely as I continue with my honor thesis at LSU, that'll definitely be something I'll look more into, trying to figure out the direct objective that they have with portraying these images. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any thoughts on why these viewbooks don't display African Americans in homogeneous settings?
I see. My thought would just be, making sure they're trying to include the diversity picture, which I said it was kind of, them interacting with different ones. So just trying to get them all in one picture at one time might be the thing there. But definitely, I feel like if I was able to add to the literature with my publication, I'm feeling, maybe I could bring that to light. Help them realize that, that's something that they're not including, and maybe that'll be able to help them to figure out a way, maybe to incorporate that more. Yes.
I have to ask a question, right?
Yes, sir, I'm ready.
You were wonderful. I just want to thank you for being with us this summer. We
Thank you.
A wonderful time with you, and I commend LSU for producing such an exceptional scholar. Now, let me ask you a tough question.
All right.
What in the world does this have to do with recruitment?
With recruitment.
Do you see any connection with Viewbooks and recruitment of diversity students? And I'm just curious about that. How does that relate? Does that really make a difference or not?
Right. That's actually one that, something I'm definitely thinking about. I'm doing my honors thesis, maybe, conducting some focus groups, some interviews, talking and maybe trying to get the, the statistics of how that is. And, whenever I have my focus group, maybe, asking the students, do you even remember the view book? Do you remember these things, and these things actually stick out to you? So definitely some more research can be done that way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, we got lots of questions. Okay, you had it.
Do you think you'll see similar results with that size of the school and whether they're public or private?
Definitely. Whenever I talk about my further research, increasing my sample size, getting more schools, definitely looking at the public, the private, and also some HBCUs, I think would be good to incorporate in there too. Definitely. Oops, so many questions. Okay, Dean Harden.
Thank you. I just want to echo Dean Selden's comments. You are a fabulous presenter.
Well, thank you.
But question for you, and that is, talk to us a little bit about your challenges or judgment calls that you had to make when you were doing the content analysis. You had some interesting categories.
Right.
There, some of the calls were probably very easy to make. Talk a little bit about the challenges and judgment calls you might have had to make that might have affected the results.
Okay. So whenever I was looking, the first couple, I'd say maybe 3 or 4 times I went through the view books, I didn't have any categories in mind. I just wanted to go through them. I wanted the data to speak for itself, and I want them to emerge on their own. So definitely with the time constraints that I had to keep my categories a little low, keep things a little, manageable, time management here. So definitely just being able to let the ones that I could, whenever I found place, community, and intellectual life, those were re-emerging categories that I kept seeing in, that I could most likely be able to code each image into there. So definitely if I was to, whenever I do increase my sample size, I'm definitely sure that more categories will emerge, and I actually have more time to really sit there and really go through the view books more carefully.
Can I follow up really quickly?
Yes, ma'am.
Was there a time when you looked at an image and it was a tough call between whether it was place or intellectual or place or community, for instance?
Yes,
or
yes.
Was it pretty obvious to you?
Well, some of them did. I did kind of have like a little contradiction there. So what I would do is I'd go onto a separate page and I'd write down what I thought it was. And then I'd go back And, once I'm going back through it again, making sure that that's the same one that I came up with the first time. So that's really how I did those, the ones that got a little confusing for me.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Preston.
Do you have any thoughts about what you would find if you did a longitudinal sort of look at some of the view books at some of the institutions? So let's say, asking Penn State to send you some of their materials from maybe early 2000 to now, and how that would affect the results of your study?
Yes, that's definitely something I'd be interested in. So many things in so little time. But definitely, with me and Dr. Hagopian actually talked about that, kind of looking at the portrayal and seeing how things have changed. So definitely. You're welcome. Yes, sir?
Excellent presentation.
Thank
My
you.
question is regarding the percentage of minority students at each school.
Mhm.
Do you plan on looking and disaggregating some of your analysis based on the percentage of minorities in schools? Because I think that might be instructive in
Right.
determining if these are accurate portrayals of the school.
Right. The only reason I didn't kind of include that here, but that's definitely on my mind, is because with the small sample size, be only having 8 universities and looking from 2 from each region, I didn't think, it would be well represented. I didn't have enough schools to really do that, but definitely when I increase my sample size, that's definitely on my list for more to definitely include that. Yes, sir.
A quick question, because you have described the Viewbooks as being more racially integrated with African Americans being sprinkled in. And a lot of schools have offices of multicultural affairs or offices of educational equity, where
Right.
it's predominantly Black, Latino, Asian American. Do you think that you're going to find, like, as you go further, that you're going to try to request that information? Where it could be that the school's promotional offices are outsourcing diversity to that particular office.
I see.
And so it would be as though that the students would have to, if you're a minority student, you would have to receive 2 packets.
I see.
One to show you what is campus life, and then one to show you, here's the little enclave that you
Right.
can go to.
Right. Okay, I see. But definitely incorporate that. Think about that one in my further research. All right, Tatiana.
So I kind of had 2 questions. One,
Mhm.
just I don't know if you had answered this before, but like, what made you choose these 8 schools? And then the other one was like, do you think that African American people or basically any other ethnicity would get discouraged when they look at these view books and not see like people who look like them? Basically, do you think that that would discourage them from going to that school?
I see what you're saying. Okay, so I chose the view books. I wanted to kind of do each region. So I did the North, the South, the Midwest, and the West. And looking at kind of like the top 100 schools, the public flagship universities that fell at kind of the top, the forefront, those are the ones I decided to choose and look at. And as for your second question, I did just look at the African American representation, but there's definitely other races, definitely other ethnicities in there. So, with more time, I could definitely, look at each one and be able to compare and see. And that's where my further research, maybe coming in with some focus groups, getting some different races, different genders, ethnicities, and kind of seeing, how are they? With the people who are actually doing the view books, they had their good intentions. They're thinking, let's include this, but is that really getting, across to the actual students who are the ones who have to look at the view books and have to interpret this for themselves?
Right, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Great, thank you so much, Ms. Broussard. We're going to go ahead and move on to our